Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our second event in our WOW series sponsored by Women at Thompson Reuters Singapore chapter. My name is Samantha Hilton and I'm a Senior Proposition Manager of Legal Solutions across AEM. I'm based in Singapore and also Chairperson for Women at TR Singapore. I've been Chair for the past 18 months and an active committee member since joining Thomson Reuters in 2014. Along with my co-chair and fellow committee members, we are delighted to present this session aimed at professional development in response to your valuable feedback. Do look out for an invitation to the third session in our WOW series on personal enrichment, which will be held in November. Today, we're all here to learn more about executive presence. What is it and how do we get it? We're very lucky to have an expert present to us today. Dean Shams is an author of 2 books and an executive presence coach and communication strategist. He's been helping executives and subject matter experts project themselves with poise and confidence for the past 15 years. Dean uses principles of neuroscience, mindfulness, and NLP language patterns to help others communicate and present themselves with influence and impact. Welcome, Dean. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that Dean has provided a worksheet for you to follow along with the content of today's presentation. Click on the link in the window chat now to download. There are blank spaces within the worksheet for you to make notes if you want to, and it includes reflection questions, which of course you can use after the session to help you apply what you will learn today. In addition, Dean has scheduled time during this next hour for your questions. We welcome and encourage you, of course, to ask questions and provide feedback. Feel free to do so throughout the session as you think of your questions, but we ask that you please pop them into the chat window so that there's no interruption to the flow of the presentation. But rest assured, we'll try and get an answer to all of them in the allocated time. So Dean, thank you very much for joining us today. We're really keen to learn more about executive presence. So let's begin. Please, can you start sharing your screen and presentation?
Sure. So happy Friday, everyone. I hope you can see me in the small box below. So I want to respect the time that we have here. So I'm going to go right into the topic. So I was introduced to the concept of executive presence 20 years ago, but not in a nice way. I was about 4 years into my first job. I was doing quite well. I had good relationship with my colleagues and I hit all my KPIs. In fact, during the performance review, I thought the review was quite reasonable. Then came the promotion time. And I found out that my name was not in the list. So I thought this is really unfair. How is it possible that Andrew, my colleague, who is more junior to me and less capable than me, was able to get the promotion and I'm not? At that point, I was really angry and I hated Andrew. And I knew that this must be because Andrew has been sucking up to the management all this time. But later, when the denial settled down and went away, I realized that Andrew had something that I don't have. At that point, 20 years ago, I didn't have a name for it, but I know something today is called executive presence. Andrew, when I looked at him from then on, I knew that he carried himself with a lot of confidence when he was able to articulate his thoughts and ideas really well. And when he gave presentation, he was able to draw the attention of us, like the audience, to what he's saying. So at that point, I realized, you know what? I cannot change the outcome of the promotion, but what I can do is I can change myself. On that day, I told myself, I'm going to be like Andrew. So what I did was I grabbed books and I studied on topics like confidence, presentation skills, communication, and even charisma. Then I did something that was very, very useful. I actually went out and intentionally looked for people I thought had a lot of charisma, and I was trying to figure out what is it about them that's different from other people that gave them that sense of like, the air of charisma. So I did this for 1 year, and I found out that it actually worked. Even though I was at that time, I didn't have a plan. I just did it trial and error. It worked. I was the only one among my peers who was chosen to go on a policy study trip to the US, and the rest of them were heads of department. So I know this validated my learnings, right? So what I did was I never stopped from then on. I continued and never stopped learning about executive presence. Then when I started my PR agency, public relations, I brought all my learnings to help my clients, who are a lot of them are subject matter experts, to help them present themselves with confidence and poise and communicate their ideas in a very concise and compelling way in front of the media. I went on to also teach my clients how to deal with conflict situation, how to resolve conflict in a very composed manner. And uh, that that led me to writing the book Speak Smart, Make Your Mark, and it's all about how to communicate so that you can boost your executive presence, right? So now when I distilled everything that I've learned, I can say what are the traits of executive presence. Let me move the slide here. So what constitutes executive presence? I found out that there are 7 C's. They're composure, credibility, conciseness, confidence, clarity, connection, charisma. When I show this list to my clients, they were like, oh my God, this is too much for me. I don't think I can ever have all these traits in my lifetime. But let me tell you, friends, that you are not expected to have to display all of this all the time. All you have to do is display some of these about 80 to 90% of the time you're communicating with someone else. And then people will know and people will recognize that you have executive presence. But this is a lot for 1 hour, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you 3 action steps that you can do today. And what I mean is after this session, you can work on this and you will be on your way towards developing the 7 C's as you journey through these steps. First one, right? Bring something new to the table. Second, become instantly likable. And third, maintain composure. First, let me talk about this guy. Meet Simon. Now, Simon was he was running an advertising agency. After running it a few years, and despite his best effort, his business wasn't really going anywhere. So it was surviving, but it wasn't thriving. And Simon became a really discontented and frustrated entrepreneur. And it became so bad that he said, I need to get out of this. I need to find the root of my discontentment. So he went out, he did research, he spoke to people of influence, and he figured something. He said the reason why he's so discontented is because he has not discovered his deep inner purpose for running an advertising agency. So with that, he did more research and he joined the dots together in his own way. And he realized that for you to be good at something and be known for something and thrive at it, you need to start with your why. So if you find that the expression start with your why familiar, I'm actually talking about Simon Sinek. So you may have seen this because his videos has gone viral. His first book was a bestseller. And if you look at the model, you start with why, go to how, and the what. If you really think about it, talking about starting with your purpose is not a new knowledge. It is something that a lot of management gurus and even spiritual leaders have been telling us all the time. It says if you want to know where you're going, you need to know your purpose. But what made Simon Sinek different? What made his video so viral? And today, big companies are paying him top dollars, and he gets paid top dollars to speak at conferences. The reason is simple. He joined the dots in new ways using his experience, and he brought something new to the table, right? So this is what we need to do. We need to join the dots in new ways. Now I want to share with you another person, Mary Kondo. You might recognize her from the Netflix series Tidying Up, right? She is a professional organizer. Now there are a lot of professional organizers out there, but this lady has 3.8 million followers on Instagram. So what makes her really different? So unlike Simon Sinek, she has joined the dots a little bit differently. What she did was she had the knowledge of organizing, all right? And then she used her own experience. So she has been a tidiness freak, right? Like she was so obsessed about tidiness ever since she was a teenager. And she realized that her experience was so intense that she wouldn't be able to help other people. She tried to help and she couldn't. So what she did was she looked into the Japanese spiritual practices, and she brought her culture into the practice of organizing. So if you have watched the show, you would know that she tends to like feel for the space, feel for the objects before she start the decluttering process. So that was what her wisdom was. So she used her wisdom to help other people, and now people, by reading her book and the show, can do it themselves. So she has brought something new to the table, right? So we can learn from them and we can do it ourselves to increase our executive presence. First, let's recognize the fact that we are all have enough, in fact, a lot of knowledge in what we do. When we do it for some time, we can preempt problems, we can find new solutions for what we are doing, and we can do things in a new way. At that stage, you have gotten insights. There's understanding and application. But the problem with a lot of us is that we tend to stay at this level. We just stay insights because it feels good to be able to solve problems and preempt issues. What we don't do is we don't go to the next stage of wisdom. In order for you to connect the dots in amazing new ways, you need to be a little bit courageous, right? You need to step out of your comfort zone. And usually the comfort zone is defined by our friends, family, and colleagues. We need to step out, meet new people, connect with new people, expose ourselves to new culture, look at new ideas, find new perspective, and then join the dots of our knowledge and insight in new ways and come back to the table and share it with your organization, with your team, and even people outside of it. And that's when people will look at you and say, wow, this person is really credible. She or he knows exactly what she's doing. Now, if there's journalists here, Reuters is, you are a media company. If you're a journalist here, you will realize that this is what you do day in, day out. So you already have an edge over this, right? So you just need to make that wisdom your own wisdom. And I know a lot of journalists has gone to great fame in the management sector because they have compiled all these things and made it their own. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is for you to bring something new to the table, you need to turn knowledge into insights and sell it as wisdom. I want to draw your attention to the word sell. I intentionally use the word sell because when you want to propose new ideas, especially if it's something that's very different from what everyone else is used to, you need to sell it. It's all about persuasion. And one thing we all need to understand is that if people don't like you, you can't sell even the best ideas. So you need to learn how to become instantly likable, right? Like said on the screen. If people don't like you, they won't buy into you no matter how amazing your ideas are. So how can we do this? First step, show that you have high EQ. Now, high EQ is a really very big, fluffy topic. So I'm going to make it really concrete for you. All right. The first thing you need to do to improve your IQ is really simple. You just smile more. We all know how to smile, right? But the problem is we don't smile often enough. So I just want to remind you, and I do this, I remind myself all the time, is that we need to smile more because smiling makes you approachable. People with presence are approachable, right? The next thing you need to do is say thank you more often. The trick here, I realized from my experience, is that you need to say thank you when you don't have to say thank you. If someone comes on time to your meeting, say, thank you for coming on time. If someone said something that really resonated with you, say, thank you for inspiring me. When you do these two things, people will automatically see you as a good person and they want to be your friend. Even better, they want to be associated with you, right? So next technique is you need to know how to talk less, say more. You know, in a lot of my communications coaching, people say, oh, I want to be really fluent in English, then I can be very impactful. And I tell them, no. Communication, there are two parts, the verbal and the non-verbal. So if you want to make an impact in what you say, you don't have to use more words. You can always focus on the non-verbal, right? So how can we do this? First, now check yourself. Right now, at this moment, check yourself. Are you sitting like this? In a remote working environment of today, we are all working at home, we are all dressed down, the laptop is in front of us, and what do? If you look at my screen, look at me on the screen, you will see that we tend to lean forward, slouch, put our shoulders on the table, and you notice that the shoulders come up. Now, multiple behavioral studies have shown that other people draw a lot of meaning from our posture. And they don't even realize it because they're judging us unconsciously. So when you have your shoulders up, elbow on the table, it is a sign of disempowerment. You lose authority, you lose power. So if you are saying something important in this pose, if you can see me on the screen, right? If you see it like this, it shows that you are not really serious about what you're saying. So you lack that power in what you're saying, right? What you need to do is sit like this. Your back needs to be up, straight. So if you sit like this, and from my own experience, I've tried doing this, feet on the ground, feet on the floor and sit upright, it can get really tiring. So I've discovered a trick and I'm going to share it with you now. Sit, if you can adjust yourself on your seat right now, sit about 3/4 of the way into the chair. And what you need to do now is to tuck your feet under the chair and put it like this. Put your feet on the floor, tuck your feet. The moment you do this, and I'm doing it exactly right now, you have no choice but to sit upright because slouching in this position is really a bit odd. Our body is not designed to do that. So when you tuck your legs in, feet on the ground, you will sit upright. 2 days ago, I did a 2 full day workshop on Zoom and I was sitting upright the whole time. No problem. A lot of time I even forget that I'm sitting upright and it becomes completely natural. And this is what you want to do. So every time you are in front of the computer, you are having a remote meeting with people, you need to tuck your legs in and show what we call the power pose, right? Next, how else can we talk less, say more? You need to pay attention to your voice. And I'm talking about the quality of your voice. I'm not talking about whether you sound nice or not, but whether there is vocal variety and whether there is energy. When you meet your colleagues at work, you say, hey, how are you? I could say that. I could say, hey, how are you? There's small bounce and enthusiasm. Friends, I want to tell you this. People are drawn to energy and enthusiasm. And this is what you need to do. Now, I'm going to show you a video. She is a scientist and she is going to speak about something. Don't worry about what she's speaking. Just observe her posture, beautiful voice. But there is something that she's not doing. I want you to take a look, look out for it and see whether you can identify that one thing that she's not doing. Go ahead, Samantha.
I express the wonder of these discoveries as well as their fundamental significance to physics, evolution, and the limits of current engineering capabilities. A prominent lawyer from Nigeria who was in the audience that day approached me a few days later. Her first words to me were, "Your research disgusted me with such waste, studying trivial and useless problems." In that moment, she had voiced my most vulnerable thoughts, that the science to which I dedicated much of my life was actually pointless.
Okay, can you see that she had beautiful voice? She's moving her head, but what happened to her arms? What happened to her hands? It was just on her lap all the time. It's really strange. I felt like when I first saw this, I felt like she was just a talking head. So the next thing that I want to say is, let me just move the slide again. That in order for one other way for you to talk less and say more is to use hand gestures. If you have been looking at my screen, you will realize that all the while I've always been using hand gestures, because when you use it purposefully and intentionally, you will be seen to have more conviction, credibility, and intention. How great is that? You don't have to change anything that you say. You just need to lift your hands and use gestures. Now, this is the thing, because when we're using remote working environment, we tend to hold our hands or keep our hands on the table and just speak. So again, you will look like the scientist, beautiful voice, beautiful posture, but the conviction is just not there. So when you raise your hands and use it, it just adds that impact, right? So what happens is this. From experience and coaching my clients, I realized one thing. When you start to build your presence, you get more connections, more people draw to you. That is good, right? When more people are drawn to you. But when there's more people you're dealing with, there's one thing that you cannot escape, and that is conflict. There were bound to be people who were opposed to your new ideas, right? There are a lot of people who are against the way Simon Sinek's idea and Marie Kondo's way of organizing things. So you need to have this power to maintain composure in any and every conflict situation. So I came across a clip. It was Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, and he was in a town meeting, and there were some protesters who were shouting at him. They were opposing his ideas. And the way he handled it was amazing. I was so amazed at it that I needed to show you this clip. So Samantha, could you show the clip, please?
You have an opportunity to be heard. You're being heard. They've heard you. You feel that climate leaders don't build pipelines. I'll repeat it for everyone. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. May I continue? I'm asking you for permission to continue. Sorry, I know you have a voice. I've just heard it. I'm asking you, can I have permission to continue in my town hall with Canadians who came out to meet with their Prime Minister? We need to be able to have responsible conversations in this country. We need to listen to each other respectfully, and we are going to disagree from time to time. That happens. That's why we have elections. That's why we have opportunities to debate. That's why I'm having town halls, so I can make sure that I'm hearing from a broad range of voices.
So what do we learn from this, yeah? Okay. What can we learn from him? Do you notice that in that short clip, in that short duration, he had 2 ovations? That is a validation of not only his composure, but obviously his executive presence. So let's see. So I studied it and I realized that there are a few things that we can learn. One is he maintained respect throughout. Even though people were opposing to his proposal, he was respectful to them. Right? And the next one is he made sure opposition felt heard. So this is something that even in my own experience, I realized that we forget to do when someone is opposing, we want to defend ourselves. But we forget to say, yeah, I hear you. You have a different opinion. Let's talk about it. So we need to make our opposition felt heard. And the next one, you notice that he maintained a value-based conversation. What I mean by that is he focused the conversation with his opposition about what matters and not about how confident he is, or it's not about him. It's not ego-based. I had a similar experience. So once I was in the board of council members in a non-profit organization. So I was standing in front of the whole council team and I was doing a proposal. There was one council member, he is really well known to cause trouble. I don't know how he got into the council, but you know, we all have this person every now and then. So he's always trying to find trouble. And while I was presenting, he said this, "Boy, are you sure your strategy is going to work?" Boy, he was extremely disrespectful to me in front of everyone else. So I had a choice. I could take the laptop and slam in his face, which I really felt like doing, or I could say something and divert the attention from his antagonism. So how I responded, I still remember it today. I said, this is not a matter of whether I'm a boy or a man. This is about how we can make strategy work. So I draw the focus away from him and I just continued the conversation or the presentation without giving him much validation. So this is something that you need to learn. It is not easy. It takes some time and you may need to learn it from books or someone or videos, whatnot. But learning how to deal with conflict conversation will boost your credibility. It will skyrocket, just like how Justin Trudeau has performed. You can do it too. Now, if you were to conscientiously do these 3 steps, you will start to experience the benefits of building your executive presence. Let me share with you some of the things me and my clients have experienced. The first one, and this is the first sign that your presence is growing, is that people will come up to you and ask for opinions on issues that matters. So there's once when, you know, I was just running my business. It was just about maybe 3 or 4 years into the business doing PR. And the executive director of a private institution, he's a marketing institution, reached out to me and said, Dean, can you come and sit in the focus group with all other PR experts? Because we want to develop a new diploma in public relations. So we would like to hear your thoughts. And at that moment, I'm like, what, me? Who am I? But of course, I know about executive presence, right? And I took the opportunity. And when I went there, I was like, oh my God, these are all veterans in the industry, and here I am among them. Well, that made me feel good, and I composed myself, and I shared what my thoughts are, and the discussion went really well. And you know, from then on, I felt a little bit better about myself, and I felt like, oh, okay, my presence is working, right? So this is what you will feel. First, people will come to you, ask for opinions on things that matter. Sometimes they will even ask opinion on things that you don't even know about, but because they have trusted you, and trust is transferable. If people trust you on one issue, they will say, hey, you know, I can trust this guy for another issue also. So look out for that, right? The next one is you will be offered opportunities that you never thought would come to you. And the third one is, and this is the best one, you will be invited to speak at conferences, and you may even be part of the panel of discussion because your opinion is so important. I want to share with you my one of my clients. So he was running a HR recruitment firm. He was a SME, a small one. And he, as a business owner, he was naturally a little bit more introverted, so he kept to himself. Well, now, when he met me, he realized that he has a potential to do public relations, appear in the media, right? So he engaged me, and along the way, I coached him on his presence. And then after he appeared in a lot of media, his eyes opened up. He said, oh my God, there's so many things that I can do with the new skills that I've developed. So today, that would be like about maybe 11 years ago. So today, he is recognized as a top influencer in HR tech. So look out for him. His name is Adrian Tan, right? Okay, so after you hear all this, you could go back on Monday, continue on your work, become busy, and completely forget about the 3 steps, right? Now you need to know what is the cause of doing nothing with what you have learned today. Imagine this. 1 year from now, one of your colleagues who is more junior to you and you have always thought of her as less capable is offered an amazing opportunity. I bet the first thing you're going to say is, what's so special about her? I'm sure I can do what she can do and I've been around longer. Sure, you can do what she can do, but she has something that you don't have. And now you can guess it, she has executive presence. That's one. Second, you could, of course, go ahead and be really good at what you do and climb the ladder. Now, what's going to happen is this. World Economic Forum, every year or 2 years, they will release a report called The Future of Jobs. So after this, you can go and Google Future of Jobs. The latest Future of Jobs report states that in the coming years, the number 1 skill that you need is people management. So it is not your technical skills anymore, it's people management. Now think back about what I've shared. All those things, isn't that all about people's management? People management is going to be expected. So if you have good people management, it's expected. Now you need to have executive presence, because when you have executive presence, you have an edge over the others. And that makes you open to new opportunities and go up higher. All right? So what is it that the 3 things that you need to do? Starting today, if you think about what I've shared, it is not difficult to do those things. 1, bring something new to the table. 2, be instantly likable. And 3, in conflict situation, always maintain your composure. So at this point, I shared what the key thing that I wanted to share, and I'll be able to take some questions if you have any. I believe Samantha said that you can put it in the chat.
That's right. Thank you, Dean. Yes, just a reminder to everyone to please pop in any questions you might have for Dean in the chat window. In the meantime, while we wait for some more questions, we have a couple already. Dean, question is, what is the difference between executive presence and personal branding?
Okay, great. I get this a lot with my clients. One of the first few questions they ask, difference between executive presence and personal branding. You need to, the starting point is executive presence. You need to intentionally develop your presence up to a point where you have gotten your own, you've come into your own style of your presence, and then you want to make it a little bit more intentional, a little bit more strategic. That's when you start doing your personal branding. So personal branding involves like, what is the 1 word that you want people to remember you for, or how you look. So all these things come at the end. Now, interestingly, I've also had people who don't have, or they have not worked on their presence, and they straight away go and do personal branding. You know what? They can look really nice, but there's something that's missing, and that something that's missing is the presence that I've been talking about. Yeah.
Thank you. And second question is, what's the biggest challenge that your clients face?
Okay. A lot of my clients are subject matter experts. That means they're experts and they use their knowledge to offer their services, right? So one of the biggest challenges that I have to work them through is what we call imposter syndrome. What is this imposter syndrome? Because they all, despite their great knowledge and insights into their subject matter, they always feel like a fraud. They feel a fraud because they always think that there are other people out there who knows more than them. So they don't have the permission or the right to talk about it the way they want to talk about it. So there's always this dilemma and this conflict in them. So the way around it, I say, is this. I tell them that it's because they have not updated their reference for what expert means. In the past, when we talk about expert, we think about academics. You know, they have access to the latest knowledge, latest research. So they come up with all these models, theories, and then they come and tell the world about it, and we all like, wow, you know. But think about it, knowledge is democratized now. We can get knowledge at the computer at the on our fingertips. So what happens now? Expert is a relative term. It depends on who's your target audience, who's the people that you're dealing with. If you know more than them, they will see you as an expert. That means at any time, there will always be people who will know more than you, and there will be people who know less than you. As long as you're dealing with people who see you as knowing more than them, you can say that you're an expert to them. But please, don't call yourself an expert. Let them call you an expert. You can just call yourself a specialist.
Thanks, Dean. Another question from Apana. In your experience, have you seen introverts who have a great executive presence?
That's an excellent. Do you know what? I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert, and that's why I was passed on for the promotion that I was telling you 20 years ago. So introverts and extroverts can both build their executive presence, but they do it in their own way. Remember, one of the C is connection. Now, from what I know, introverts, you don't connect one to many, you connect one to one, and you can do it so well. So use your introversion, the strengths from introversion, to build your presence in your own way.
Thank you. I think that answers Jennifer's follow-up question about advice for how introverts can express executive presence. Yeah. Are there any more questions? Would anyone like to come off mute and ask a question? Okay, well, Dean, thank you very much for the
I have one more slide, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sure, no problem. Okay, I just want to leave you with this thought, all right? So executive presence is not a mountain to climb. So what do I mean by that? Is we all want to be really good at a skill, and if you see executive presence as a mountain, that means if you climb long enough, you will reach the summit. And then what? Then you have won. You have become like you have 100% executive presence. That is not the reality. The reality is our environment, especially today, is constantly changing, and you are constantly dealing with people with different thoughts, different ideas. So things are constantly changing. So you need to see your development process as a journey of discovery. So you have to constantly adapt and make it your own with the environment. So I always tell my clients this. Executive presence is a journey with a beginning, a middle, when you start to feel that you have executive presence, and there is no end. So with that, I just want to wish you all the best in your journey towards your executive presence. Samantha.
Thanks, Dean. Actually, we just have another question. Yeah. Okay. So as you work with various corporations from various countries with different corporate cultures, do you think executive presence can come in different shades as well?
Oh, excellent. Okay. In my model of executive presence, there's one thing that covers all these skills. So I've been talking about skills, right? But different culture receives these skills in different way because they have different meaning to the things. So let's say in the West, being, if you see people from the West, the speakers, they are very comfortable being loud, and they're very comfortable talking about their strength. But in the East, it's a little bit different. We're a little bit more subdued, and we tend to be a little bit more indirect in our communication. So this is really important. You always need to know what works in the culture. So that's why I say it's a journey of discovery. You need to always adapt yourself to what works in that space, right? Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think there's any more questions. Oh, yes, there is.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Liling. Hi, Dean. Based on your experience, how long will it take to achieve executive presence?
Right. It is just like any other skill, right? So how fast will it take for you to learn to play the guitar? Is how often you practice and how consciously you get into the practice. So because I was consciously practicing it, because it had a cost to me, so it worked for me, like I said, within a year. And then that was just the beginning, right? Then I continued and it became better and better. And I'm comfortable with it now. So really, you need to be very conscious about building a presence. For example, sitting. When I tell my clients, right, from now on, so I taught them how to sit upright. I said, from now on, you will sit upright no matter where you are. Even if you're in a cafe with friends and having a chat, you will sit upright. They were like, are you crazy? I said, no, I'm not crazy. This is how you practice. Yeah. So you have to be really conscious and intentional in your practice.
Awesome. I think we're wrapped up with questions there, I believe, unless we get an extra one. Nope. All right, well, Dean, thank you again for the very informative presentation and practical suggestions. If there are no further questions, that concludes the session today. And thanks to my committee members who helped to bring us together, and thanks to all of you, my colleagues, for joining today's webinar and showing your support for women at Thompson Reuters. Please feel free to reach out if you would like to be part of our group, or if you would just like more information on upcoming events. You can click on the link in the chat window for our hub page, or there it is on the screen. Have a great weekend, and bye for now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks again, Dean. I think we got some great questions, and
Yeah.
based on those questions, I think there's been some good engagement. And as I said, I think they're very practical suggestions. So I really appreciate you sharing those with us.
That's really nice.
And of course, your information, if people want further information about you and your books, they can get that.
All right. I didn't show that slide.
You didn't, but it's okay because I think it's in the worksheet.
It's in the worksheet.
We will publish that on our Women at Thompson Reuters hub page as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. My email is just my name, Dean@DeanShamsin.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think we will close the session out now. Thanks again. And
thanks for reaching out to me. I'm so happy to be part of this. Wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Shall I leave now?
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.